Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Blue Eyes Chaos Max deck profile. So this is probably one of my favorite variants of Blue Eyes White Dragon, because God, there's a lot of variants of Blue Eyes White Dragon. But this is a really cool variant because basically you're able to OTK your opponent with this card extremely easily, because when it attacks your opponent, you can OTK them with just one swing of being able to do double piercing damage into a defense position monster. So if your opponent has a monster with 0 defense on their side of the field and the Blue Eyes Chaos Max attacks, you instantly win the duel. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description, because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card sent to you in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile just like this one. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. And a lot of you guys were actually requesting me to do an update of this because the test hand video was a little bit different from the actual deck, because I had done some edits from the last time I had actually worked with the deck and didn't realize it. I actually forgot that I'd done that. So I wanted to update it for that reason, and you guys really like this deck. So there definitely will be the test hands, will be in the description as well if you guys want to see how to actually play this deck. So definitely check that out. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes Chaos Max. As stated before, it's the OTK piece of the deck. If it attacks into defense position monster, then it inflicts double piercing damage to your opponent, and it cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is really, really good. We then play 2 copies of Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon. Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon is insane in this deck, because basically what this card does is when it battles an opponent's monster, or when it declares an attack, you can change the battle position of as many monsters your opponent controls. And if you do, the attack and defense of those monsters becomes 0. And also, if this card attacks a defense position monster, it inflicts piercing damage as well. And it also cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. That's really good. Or it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. It can be targeted, or it can be targeted. It can't be targeted, and it can't be destroyed, which is really cool. Then we play 3 copies of Chalice Slime as well. Chalice Slime is just here for consistency reasons. Basically, you reveal this card in your hand, and if you do, you can special summon an incantation from your deck. You also have to discard a card, and then you special summon an incantation from your deck, which can be really helpful, because sometimes it doesn't matter if you discard that one of Blue Eyes that you have in your hand, but it helps get the consistency, because what you're basically trying to do, as you can see in the test hands, is you're trying to get both of these out on your side of the field as quickly as possible, so you can declare your first attack with Chaos Dragon, and then declare your second attack with Chaos Max, and this switches everything to defense. This switches battle position and reduces 0. This attacks and OTKs your opponent. Really awesome. But being able to special summon the incantation from your deck also helps out, because then you're searching the particular pieces that you need. Then we play 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes White Dragon is insanely good in here because you use it with Chaos form, and you can also revive it with Return of the Dragon Lords, and to trade in target as well, so you can discard it to the graveyard to be able to dig through the deck. You can also basically, this entire deck is centralized around using that Blue Eyes White Dragon, because you have cards like your Advanced Ritual Art and your Chaos form that specifically use Blue Eyes White Dragon to send to the graveyard to summon these guys out from your hand, which is super helpful. We then play 3 copies of Manju of the 10,000 Hand. Manju of the 10,000 Hand, when it's normal summon, which is the only normal summon in the entire deck, when it's normal summon, you get to add a ritual monster, ritual spell. This helps out with the consistency a lot in this deck, because you're able to just summon this card and then add the particular piece that you're missing, like a copy of the Blue Eyes Chaos Max, the Chaos Dragon, or even the Advanced Ritual Art or Chaos form, depending on what you exactly need. 2 copies of Talismandra. Talismandra adds our ritual monster from our deck to our hand. Candle adds our ritual spell. Bookstone adds our ritual spell back from the graveyard. And then a Pencil Plume adds our ritual monsters back from the graveyard. So basically, if you guys are not familiar with incantations, what these cards do is you reveal them in your hand and a corresponding card. Like for instance, for the Talismandras, you reveal a ritual monster in your hand, and then special summon this card from your hand, and then special summon any of the other copies of your incantations from your deck. So if you special summon them, then their effects trigger. For instance, if I revealed a ritual monster in my Talismandra and then special summon Talismandra, I would then special summon my Pencil Plume from deck and add a ritual monster from my graveyard to my hand. So when they're special summoned, they have an effect to add a card from somewhere, these being from graveyard, these being from deck, pretty much. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we are going to be playing 2 copies of Chaos Form. Chaos Form is really helpful because when you use the Chaos Form, you can actually banish Blue Eyes White Dragons from your graveyard to be able to summon your ritual monsters, which is super helpful, but you only ritual summon Chaos monsters with this card or Blackluster Soldier. Kind of weird, but I like it. But this card's really good because you can just instantly use it to go into your Blue Eyes Chaos Max or your Chaos Dragon. We play 3 copies of Advanced Ritual Art. I always want to open this card because basically it just mills through the deck to get rid of one of your Blue Eyes so you don't draw into it. It also hits your copies of... it also summons from the hand, so it's reducing the amount of hand advantage that you're actually losing off of just activating this, opposed to sending a Blue Eyes to the graveyard with Chaos form, because you never want to do that. You never want to send one from hand to graveyard with Blue Eyes Chaos form, or the Chaos form, to summon one of your ritual monsters, because then you're losing advantage. You're playing 3 cards to get it out on the field. So you want to be able to send from deck, so you're only playing 2 cards, which is the ritual monster itself and Advanced Ritual Arts. This card is the best value to actually summon any of your ritual monsters. But then if you have a monster in the graveyard, you can actually use Chaos form to banish that Blue Eyes to summon one of your other monsters, which is really helpful. We then play 3 copies of Melody of the Awakening Dragons, which searches any of our Blue Eyes monsters. It searches Chaos Max, it searches Chaos Dragon, it searches Blue Eyes, it searches any of the ones that you actually need to your hand. Usually what I search is both my ritual monsters off of this, regardless if I have one of them or not. I usually just summon both or add both my ritual monsters from my deck to my hand, because it just helps out so much just have duplicates of them, because you can always use them with Chaos form to get rid of it if you don't need it, which is super helpful. Then I play a single copy of Monster Reborn, because if you do get a Blue Eyes in the graveyard, you can always bring it back. Same thing with the Return of the Dragon Lords. Return of the Dragon Lords just brings those Blue Eyes White Dragons back from the graveyard, and it prevents your monsters from being destroyed by card effects. It comes in really handy because you just don't have to, you just don't deal with your opponent's stuff. Like, if they're going to destroy something by battle or by card effect, you just banish this instead. It really helps out me, because the only way that my opponent's really getting past my Chaos Max is if they attack it. And so this card being able to banish itself to prevent it being destroyed by battle or by card effect, which you don't have to worry about card effect, you just have to worry about battle. This card comes in super handy to stop that, so you don't have to deal with that problem. Then we play 3 copies of Trade-In. The 3 Trade-Ins, basically you discard a level 8 monster to add 2 or draw 2 cards, which is super helpful. If you do that, it's just going to help you dig into the deck to add your incantations from your deck to your hand, your copies of your Blue Eyes Chaos Max, your Chalice Slimes, anything that you need to just immediately get into that Chaos Max. And then 3 copies of Xian Spy. Xian Spy is really neat, and I'll show you guys really quickly a quick combo of it. How you actually use Xian Spy in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's see that quick combo, and we'll go ahead into the extra deck. So for Xian Spy, basically what you do is if you have an incantation on your field, it doesn't matter which one you have, and you have a Blue Eyes Chaos Max on your side of the field, you win, because all you need to do is activate that Xian Spy and then give your opponent that copy of any incantation you have, which has 0 defense, and then swing into it with Chaos Max. Yes, copies of Creature Swap, if you don't have Xian Spy, is an easy way to just change them out. If you don't have the Xian Spy, I know this card's kind of an odd card to see, but it is a really good card to just give your opponent a card without them requiring to have a monster on the field. But if you don't have this card, you can definitely play Creature Swap. I know this card's a lot easier to get a hold of, because I think Xian Spy's had 1 printing out of Cybernetic Revolution, which is an old school pack from GX. But basically, you just give them the monster and then swing into it with it being 0 defense. If you can only summon the Chaos Dragon or Chaos Max, if you can summon the other one, it does also work, but it's not going to do as much damage. So that's really why you want to go ahead and give them that extra monster to be able to just swing. So for the extra deck, we're not going into the extra deck all that much, so what we're going to be playing in the extra deck is 1 copy of Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. This card's probably the easiest card to go into in the extra deck, because it just requires 2 Blue Eyes monsters. I go into this card the most frequently, because you can just send 2 Blue Eyes monsters, 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons on your side of the field to the graveyard, and then special summon this card. You use 2 copies of Return of the Dragon Lord, or Return of the Dragon Lord into Monster Reborn, anything you want, and you send it to the graveyard, and then you summon this card. It can't be destroyed by battle, and it can attack twice, and any monster it battles, you can banish that opponent's monster as well, which is super helpful. Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon. Full Armor Photon just pops a card on your side of the opponent's side of the field, and you can overlay it on top of another Galaxy monster. Number 62, Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon. You overlay this on under a copy of Full Armor Photon, so you summon this and then Full Armor Photon. Cypher Blade just pops a card on your opponent's side of the field as well, so it's really helpful for that. 1 copy of Cypher Dragon. Again, you use this card to overlay under a copy of your Cypher Blade Dragon, and it also takes an opponent's monster off their side of the field, which is super helpful. Number 38, because it negates spells, which is super helpful. Heretic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis, because you can discard or you can tribute monsters from your hand or field, and then pop cards, which is helpful. Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand, because you can detach a material from this card and make something immune to everything, but it negates its own effect. Dingirsu, because it protects things from being destroyed, which is super helpful. And plus, when it's summoned, you can send the card your opponent controls to the graveyard. It doesn't target, which is kind of nice. Number 23, Lancelot, because it also lets you attack your opponent directly and target a face-up monster on your opponent controls and destroy it. And then during either player's turn, when spell trap or another monster effect is activated, detach the material and then negate the activation. So it's a good negation card. Dragubolon, this card is really good. Number 97 is really good because you can just summon this card, detach the material, special summon 2 dragon number monsters with different names from your extra deck, and then overlay one of them on top of the other, which is cool, which is number 101, or number 100, Numeron Dragon is the one you always summon off this because you can make it go instantly to 9,000 because it's always counted as a rank 1. And then it also has the ability that if you have that Dragubolon on your side of the field, or number 97, then it gains 9,000 attack because there's technically 9 ranks on the field, so this card's just another OTK piece. Phoenix to pop spells and traps. Underclock Taker is a really interesting card that I bumped back into the deck because you can target your Blue Eyes Chaos Max and then increase its attack by the opponent's monster's attack. So if you always summon the Blue Eyes Chaos Max under the extra monster zone, it helps because you can just instantly go into this. Now that's something you got to run into. If you know your opponent's playing Security Dragon or Akashic Magician, they can bounce your Blue Eyes Chaos Max if it targets it. But sometimes it happens, and it's kind of like the risk you take. But Underclock Taker boosts up a monster's attack, which is super helpful. And then Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, just to be able to bounce stuff. This card comes in really handy, just to be able to end phase, and then summon this, and then bounce stuff off your opponent's side of the field, and special summon a Blue Eyes from deck, which is really nice. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely check out the test towns down in the description below. Really, really cool deck. Highly recommend this version of Blue Eyes because you can play this version, the Synchro version, or the Fusion version, or the Danger Blue Eyes version. There's a bunch of different versions of Blue Eyes, which is really cool. It kind of reminds me of Red Eyes, but Red Eyes has a lot more versions. But anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on the screen, become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.